Hi, I'm Julie Wilkins. Thanks for coming over and visiting my site. I wanted to share with you all a little bit of my journey and how specifically that I came and found yoga after having very severe scoliosis and having a total spine fusion with rods put in, which was done 25 years ago. So a little bit about me. I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was about 8 years old, and which is a little on the young side. Maybe some of you out there that have scoliosis, it wasn't detected until your teen years. So I had a particularly aggressive case of scoliosis. So when I was first diagnosed, we decided to treat it with wearing the brace. So I was put into a brace, which was a really tight plaster back brace that was worn really tight and tight enough to keep the spine in much of an upright position as possible, straight spine. And so I was to wear that 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. My memory is that it was really hot. I live in Alabama, and summers were hot, and I was still a kid. It was really hard to play in that restrictive brace. But I did it the best I could until about the age of 12 as I started to hit some of my growth spurts. We were following up with the doctors and the orthopedist regularly and discovered that my scoliosis was continuing to progress and my curvature was getting much worse. And so I had a double curve, an S-shaped spine along with rotation of the spine, and my curves were about getting into the 60 degrees, both of them. So usually over 40 degrees, they start to talk about surgery. And being that I still hadn't really hit maturity yet, it wasn't looking good in my case. So my parents decided in 1988 to go forward with putting me electively through major surgery to correct my very curved spine and stabilize the curve so that no longer did I have to worry with scoliosis. So in February of '88, I was rolled into surgery. It was a 4-hour operation, and I had my spine fused from the levels of T3, which is very high thoracic, all the way down to L3, which is very low at the base of the spine. They put in 2 titanium rods. I had Cottrell Dubussé rods. And a little bit about what a fusion is, because for people that haven't been through this, they don't even really know what that word means. So my understanding in this surgery is that the spine is mechanically straightened to its degree, its straightest degree possible. For me, at the time, they were only able to get about 50% correction. The surgery is now probably newer, and maybe there's more screws and different things that can be used to get even more straightness in the spine. So they basically straighten the spine, and then they take bone either from the patient's hip or pelvic area or use cadaver or donor bone, and they fuse the spine so that it no longer can grow. It can no longer curve. So fusion means taking bone and putting it on top of bone, and that will fuse together and create a solid bone. So the spine, my spine, is like your thigh bone, a straight, strong, solid structure. So the actual fusion takes about 6 months to a year to take place. So that's why the rods are put in. The rods are attached to the spine to hold the spine in place while the fusion occurs. That's why it's very important post-surgery that you're very careful with your activities. Usually it's 6 months to a year before you're even clear to begin any kind of exercise program. So make sure to stay with your doctor because you want to make sure your fusion has occurred. At that point, the rods really aren't needed anymore. I don't recommend going back in and having the rods removed, although some people do and have to do that for different reasons. Mine are going to be with me for life. So basically, after my surgery and my recovery, I continued to live a very normal life as a teen. I was a cheerleader in high school. I played softball. I was pretty athletic, and it really didn't slow me down that much, other than some lingering insecurity about the scar on my back and noticing that maybe I still wasn't real happy with the way some clothes were fitting me, because I do still have 2 moderate degree curves. They did the best they could in 1988, so I have to be pleased with where I am now. Fast forward to the age of 27, where I decided to walk into my first yoga class. And I was scared to death and really didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't even have an idea that this would be even something I could do. When we think of yoga, we think of twists and bends and contortions, and I had a few spine, still do. So I kept going back and I kept exploring it, and I discovered that I actually could work on a lot of mobility in certain areas of my body, such as my shoulders, which were unfused and are unfused, my hips, my legs, and actually my neck and very lower spine still had a good degree of mobility. And after really studying and training with some different people who had also been through the surgery, I started to get a little bit more confident in my body and actually connect a little bit deeper to the structure of my body, my spine, and how I could really use it and move and benefit from the practice of yoga. So over time, I studied and studied. I learned about the anatomy of the spine in detail. I specifically learned about the anatomy of my spine and realized where I wasn't fused and what was possible for those unfused areas, and then how to stay safe and protect those unfused areas, because they've got a long way to go with me and I want them to stay safe and healthy. So I now 8 years later, 8 to 10 years later, have been practicing yoga. I've been teaching for 4 years. I'm also a licensed occupational therapist, so I have rehabilitation background as well. And I've decided to start sharing my story about my journey with yoga and scoliosis, but particularly yoga with a fused spine. And I'm here to tell you that it can be done. You can have a safe and joyful, expressive yoga practice filled with breath and incredible movement, and you can do it safely and you can do it well. So I invite you to check out my website and look over at my video page. I'm going to be working on posting videos and having videos available for you all out there who have had fusions and are cleared from your doctor to begin a yoga program, and show you how I began to work very gradually and gently with the mission of getting strong to help stabilize my fusion, because I want that to stay strong and stable, but to find mobility in the areas of my body that still have and had mobility. So come on over, check me out, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer more questions. I'm curious how you all are doing out there post-surgery. I wonder how you're feeling, how you're moving in your bodies. And come over and meet me on the mat sometime. Namaste.